We're live? And we're live.
We're
All right. The three amigos. Back in action. When did we last talk? Was it a few weeks before Baltimore?
That sounds right.
What was going on? I'm completely blanking on there must have been some kind of drama or something of interest. Spoilers, maybe? Just spoilers?
I think we were just talking spoilers, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. We went through all the spoilers actually at that time, and there's been many more since. Although one thing I'm bummed about is I've never been to the Gen Con, and I'm always envious of that big, nice glass table they have with all the cards. So I have not witnessed a Gothic card yet, but you definitely have, Josh. Have you, Steve? Were you at Gen Con as well?
No.
Okay. Yeah, we're a couple of noobs over here.
I know.
Gothic virgins. Waiting on those angels. I think it's coming. Do you guys think there's going to be a light side with 50% of the art is all angelic and light stuff, or what?
I thought originally, and then Liz mentioned that the City of Plenty painting is supposed to be a city that is just like rotten to the core, is her description. So I thought it was like that light side kind of that we were expecting. But after hearing that description from her, it makes me wonder.
I'm starting to think like there is light side, but it's not the majority of, like, it's not a half-half. Like there's light, but there's not a lot of light.
Yeah, I like your thought though, because I guess if you think about each of the lighter pieces, they did have a Gothic undertone or some kind of evil undertone in a way. Even the one that I don't know. I guess the one that Lindsay revealed is debatable. That looked purely angelic, although maybe it was like a desperate prayer.
Well,
to rid her of evil. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Day of Judgment, which feels very, we know that one of the avatars is the Persecutor. So it feels almost like maybe it's, good, but like vengeful good, almost like the Inquisition.
Good call.
Yeah,
because there was a Savior pre-con or something too. And even that kind of looked like a bit darker art. Yeah. So, all right. Well, we're here to talk about Baltimore. We were all three of us were at SCG Con Baltimore. It was my first time I've ever been to an SCG Con personally. How about you guys?
Yep. First time.
I was there a couple years ago. It was in Pittsburgh.
Okay. Because of magic interest? Or are you also in the flesh and blood a bit? Magic?
Yeah, no, just pure magic. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So that's the thing. I was talking to, I was talking to the Sorcery Con guys today, and we were talking about, different options for how we could approach Sorcery Con. I actually talked to Ron, the coordinator of Courtesan Cup, a bit at No Land Beyond Saturday night after the event, and he was talking about kind of the more competitive approach that they took with the qualifiers, and then you go to the main event. You had to qualify for the event, so it's more like competitive player against competitive player. Whereas Sorcery Con and also SCG Con, the format is such that everyone, you just buy in, right? You just sign up, buy in, and you can be like the greatest player in Sorcery playing someone that just learned the game a week ago. So it's a much different experience because of that diversity. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get unlucky. The competitive players want to be challenged and play other competitive players. So I think he's on to something there where it is interesting that Courtesan could be a little more competitive type dynamic, where some of these others are more universally inclusive, or all skill levels are welcome. So how did you guys both competed in the main event and some of the other side events, right? Was that your experience? You're kind of mixed?
Yeah. I mean, definitely, when the first couple of rounds, you're just playing your random people, and you might come up against one of the best players, or someone this is their first game and they've entered the crossroads. Definitely, right now at these large events where you're talking 120 players, whatever, you can really kind of miss those first 2 or 3 rounds. You can kind of dodge, if you're lucky, some of the highly competitive players. And then once you get to round 4, though, once you're 4-0, at that point, you're in the stack. So
right. So is that how, when you advance rounds, do you get paired with people with better records, or is every single matchup random? Is that what you're saying?
No. So like if you're 1-0, you'll in the second round you'll be paired with someone who won their match. And then in the second round, if you won both of your matches, it'll pair you with someone who won both of their matches.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so you'll always be, but just because someone won their first 2 matches, that doesn't mean like they're some highly competitive player. They could be just a mid-level player.
Sure.
So yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense because the game's pretty swingy.
Yeah.
Okay. Good job. We got some trouble tonight, guys.
Yeah.
Usually passes out on our little drive at like 8:30 or 9. But all right, so let's start from the beginning. You guys got in. Did you guys get in Thursday night? The event went Friday to Sunday.
Yeah.
So that was a little different. I guess Sorcery Con was Thursday to Sunday, which is a long weekend. I still got in Friday on Sorcery Con, so I'm used to these 3-day things, and I'm wondering how people can survive 3. I guess Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, that would probably destroy me because we go hard till midnight at least, like every night, you know?
You got to do Gen Con, man. Gen Con starts Wednesday night.
Is that right?
Night,
oh, my God.
Yeah, we start Wednesday night, 24/7, baby. None of this closing the con. It's open.
Is it right? Is it open all night long?
Oh, yeah. 24/7.
So how late are you guys actually in the game hall area?
When I was a young man, 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning.
Okay. And do the vendors vend all night long too?
Oh, no. Well, now the vendors that are in the game hall proper, they sometimes will stay open. Yeah.
Wow. That's wild. All right. So you guys both got in Thursday night though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then were you there at doors open around like 9 o'clock Friday morning, both of you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
To get in the limited championship, we had to be.
Yeah.
So it was, again, I was talking to Sorcery Con guys. We were talking about like the vibe and the dynamic of this versus other events. And to me, it felt very much like Sorcery Con where, I mean, Sorcery Con is all sorcery, right? But this one had multiple games. However, the sorcery presence was kind of like in one area of the convention hall. And it felt like a sorcery event to me because it was actually very interesting because alongside the players, just like at Sorcery Con, you had all the artists lined up, or at least 3 of the 4 that were there for sorcery, because you had Ed Bear Jr. on the end, then Liz Danforth, then Scott Kirshner. And then that was kind of the divider because they had these big walls behind them where they had their art displayed and whatnot, the products, merchandise they're selling. And then it was kind of like it sectioned it off from the whole rest of the convention hall. So we were almost like isolated to like this just one very large sorcery type of area. And then Magic was against the wall next to us. But I didn't even hear anybody talking about Magic, or I couldn't even see their cards or anything. They were separated enough that it felt like a sorcery event, just like Sorcery Con did. Is that the vibe you guys got too? That it felt kind of like, and we knew everybody, right? A lot of these guys go to every event. We go to these so often that we know almost everybody there. And then maybe like a quarter to half are newcomers, or a third, I'd say, half to a quarter to a third.
You know, the interesting thing was it was about half and half of the convention hall. Half it was sorcery.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'd argue 50% of the people there at the event were sorcery related. And I, you know, the interesting thing too, me and Josh are playing in a sealed, you know, just a community event. And we had everybody surrounding us was brand new to sorcery. And it's like, it was great. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I will say. You know, we were segmented, like you said.
Yeah.
I honestly wonder if that was a poor decision. As nice as it was to kind of be sorcery to be there, the Magic players didn't wander over as often, right? Because they had to. All the vendors were in between us and the Magic section. And so I do wonder if now maybe they'd be like, man, what are all those people doing over there? They're not doing Magic. Maybe they would wander over, but they weren't forced. And apparently in Houston, the Magic or the sorcery learn to play booth was like in between the Magic section and the bathrooms.
Oh,
so you know they kept seeing it, all these people at the learn to play booth, and so they'd stop. And we didn't have that kind of traffic, so. You know, it's like, was it positive, negative, or was it kind of a wash? That's really kind of the thing for exposure.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point because the same thought occurred to me because the way it was set up is, like I said, like the artists were the divider from the other area, and then like along the wall, it was Magic Commander format specifically. but the like standard constructed format, and I suppose like other games. I mean, I kind of just ventured around on the other side at one point, and I couldn't tell what games were being played. I didn't see a lot of signage and stuff, so no. But I didn't really care, so I didn't like seek it out. But just casually walking through, it was a pretty large area over there. But then all the vendors were in the middle, so that was like the divider between that large gaming presence, then all the vendors, then all the artists, and then Sorcery, and then against the wall Magic Commander. And then the signage for Sorcery was also, it was nice, but it was like along the back wall where just in the learn to play section. I didn't notice really on the other side where maybe a very large, like if I had to give feedback to the team, I'd say try to put those. I mean, it might be a little problematic if you put it at the end of every row of tables because it could block the view, I guess, from people sitting on the side and trying to see what's going on. But to your point, like if you were just kind of walking around, you didn't really realize that maybe that those were all the Sorcery tables. It just looked like a few small tables for learn to play along the side where the big Sorcery artwork type displays, you know?
Yeah. Well, they could have, they could have taken the banners that they have at Gen Con. They could have put those at the far end in between the Flesh and Blood section in Sorcery. Because Flesh and Blood was up against that other wall.
Okay.
And they didn't have a very big presence. So if you could put the banners down there, not as many people would have been there. But as you walked in, you would have seen those banners. Right?
Gotcha.
As you walk into the vendor hall, you would see those banners, be like, oh, so Sorcery's over there. And then maybe that would have been like, oh, look at all those people playing Sorcery. Let's go check this out.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so you guys weren't at Houston, right? So you don't really have a frame of reference to compare. I saw, did you see the pictures from the PAX event? I wonder if that PAX Australia is that also like an SCG con where they have a lot of games? Or is that all Sorcery?
PAX is like a Gen Con.
Yeah.
It's not as big, but it's more like that. Yeah.
All right, because the pictures of the signs there were like insane, like that massive wall of the elemental avatars. So maybe it was just like logistics where, I mean, that's all the way down in Australia. So I don't know if maybe Jesse had that made or Eric or something because he's fairly local being in New Zealand. Whereas like Jesse and Drew had to drive. Drew told me he and Jesse drove up from Texas because he doesn't like to fly. So that's an insane drive. I don't know if he rented a U-Haul truck or what, but they had limited capacity with I don't know, maybe they shipped the product with Dragonlord and whatnot, but and the sealed product, they probably shipped it up, but it's still hard to travel with a lot of stuff. So I don't know, but otherwise it was a great turnout, right? The tables felt full all day, every day, the gaming tables.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was the thing. I mean, every time you were there, those tables were full. People were playing, whether it was the community events, the two main championship events, they were full. That was that Crossroads had the attendance setting record of 127. So
yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. For a record for Crossroads specifically. And there's been a handful of those at this point, I'd say. 4
yeah, there's been what?
Gen Con?
5. There's been 5. There's been 5.
Houston and
Baltimore.
I think
how many was in Sorcery Con's main event?
Well, that wasn't a Crossroads though.
That's
the Sorcery Con was bigger. Yes, that main event for Sorcery Con was bigger, but it wasn't a Crossroads. So we're just saying Crossroads record was set. Yeah.
I just wonder how much it was, how much bigger it was, because if we look at it this way, if we divide it up regionally, it may be, you may be able to show, hey, there's growth if we add up all of the unique players at all the Crossroads type of thing as compared to Sorcery Con. Yeah.
That'll be hard when we got guys like Pete running around playing in every one of them.
Yeah. Did he get the round? That's why I said unique, because I was like, there's a couple of which, though, speaking of getting around, we have a remote correspondent here from Collector Arthouse field reporter is Ed Bear Jr., the Dragon Lord.
Oh
no, the Dragon Lord is here.
Target acquired! Target acquired!
Compromised! We've been compromised! We've been compromised! Shut it off!
Here we go!
Purpose! Get it out! Get out of the way! Close it down! Shut it down! The Cervati surveillance remote tamper has in fact been compromised.
We got a rogue one. Look at these lunatics.
Wow! Now that I'm blind. Holy wow! I just looked right into that light.
Woo!
First ever, all four of
We
us.
are-
It was our first ever SCG Con experience.
We are here in the Servati Surveillance Camper. That's right. We had the target, man. The perp was in the spot, and then boom, you went and put us on live broadcast, ruined the whole operation.
I'm telling you.
Yeah,
We
so
are-
you
yeah.
turn around and you're right back on the road. Where are you?
Yeah, so I literally left from Baltimore and then drove straight to Southern Ohio. Quick stop, pick up the truck, come back down. Where had to basically break down the Ohio Renaissance Festival. That's why we're surrounded by boxes in here. We're gonna try to squeeze in between a box to sleep tonight. Then we're out of here. We got an 11-hour drive to get back. And then it's on to the next event, which will be December at Steel City Comic Con. But at least I got some time when I get home, which is a ton of work, a lot of Patreon art, and of course all that other stuff. But anyway, so you guys are talking about Baltimore, man. Let's talk about this amazing event that happened at SCG Con Baltimore, man, because that was a friggin' rocking event. I mean,
Yeah.
One of the things I love the most about it, you talk about highlights of the event. Aside from the kids, there was a lot of young kids that had come in and participated. You had Everly, which is Jim, Murray's daughter. We had Lucy. She's like 12. And they were fascinated by the storyline. So I was telling them the Dragon Lord storylines and the whole bit. But the best part that I thought was even beyond just socializing with the kids, and which was something that was bizarre and fun, was the fact that, when I was giving away those free Cradle of Ethereum prints, the small ones, the mini ones, we had this concept of let's do this like Johnny Carson routine where we're holding the card up to my forehead, and I was trying to psychically evaluate. Every one of you guys got it. Mike got it, Josh got it, and Steve got it. So I'm thinking to myself, I have no clue what the hell's in the box. Yeah.
Nice.
No, speaking of Philosopher's cards, you got a hell of a video, man. You've got the evidence.
The evidence is there.
Put it out today. Yeah.
I
Philosopher's
guess
Cards
the right
YouTube.
one.
If you want to see Ed guessing correctly, amazing.
Yeah. I dropped the
Josh,
video
on the other hand,
yesterday, I
was one of
think.
Oh,
Josh
yesterday.
was one of the ones I didn't get correctly. But he got what he needed, which was actually.
Well,
and
we don't know
ironically-
that yet. It hasn't been opened yet, Ed. It's right here. It's going to be given away. I'm going to record that and post it. So
Okay.
we'll see if you got it right or not.
All right.
Nice.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. And Mike, which one did you get? What
I
foil?
was going for the shrine, and we pulled the fire Ignis.
Yes, and today we took a look at TCG Player just to see for the heck of it, because one of my goals at this event, along with Gen Con too, but especially this event, because we sold big numbers. We actually we almost matched what we sold at Gen Con. So that was really huge. And so I was really hoping to bring that price down on TCG Player. But we didn't have a lot of scalpers. We just there's only 19 boxes up for sale, and that's between Houston and SCG Baltimore. So it effectively did do something, because there's been a lot more non-foil decks being sold. There's a little more activity on the card side. The boxes were going from $289 just before the show down to $212 on average, which is great, because that's where they should be. They should be between $150 and $200 is what I'm thinking. That's what I thought since the beginning. And to have the foil cards maintain that $150 to possibly $450, $500, which is exactly what's happening. But what did happen is the Ignis Rex has just exploded in value. It's gone up to like $268 on an average, which was interesting. So I don't know if it had to do with play that was going on, that people were finding that to be a very playable card, because things have switched.
Yeah, the reason that has happened is because a lot of people have created a deck now that is seeing play, the Dragon Lord using Ignis Rex. So when you see a Dragon Lord deck right now, almost every time Ignis Rex is the one they're selecting for the Dragon Lord to use.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, and also add an item is picking up some speed. It's going up a little higher. The Dragon Lord's Lair, the site is still holding its own at $250. That's pretty much stable. What I have noticed is the Shrine of the Dragon Lord has dropped in price substantially. It's like $275-ish roughly, and but the Dragon Lord himself is still maintaining that $450. But the boxes have dropped down finally now at that 200 to 212, which is more palatable. And that's going to be helpful for trade because we did keep track of how many players were buying the boxes day after day. So they buy one the first day, the second day, and the third day, mostly trying to get their full sets of foil. But there was, if you've got two duplicates of non-foil playables, you're going to put them up for sale. So we're starting to see the individual card prices come down, which is also good as well. But this is the thing. We did 5 individuals where I had to predict through the psychic ability of the Cradle of Ethereum which foil they had. And I was correct 4 out of the 5 times. And actually 2 of them videoed their experiences. So we had 3 videos documenting that I guessed right. It was absolutely freaky. And I can't wait to see what you're going to do, Steve, Philosopher cards over there. When you get that video ready, please let me know when you broadcast that because I'll share the heck out of it. Yeah.
I did. I dropped it yesterday. I'll tag you. I put it on the Discord, but I didn't tag you, so I'll tag you.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
I'll do it now, actually.
Well, sometime when I get back, we got a couple of day drive ahead of us. But when we get back, I'll definitely share that with my group members and stuff because that was fun. I mean, you know what it is? It's doing that kind of stuff. Julian, who was the champion of the event, great guy as far as interactive. A lot of questions he had. I mean, I have a video with him and I think we had like a good 7 or 8 minutes where he's going through every single card because he won a free box. And he's going individually one at a time with each card, getting to the point of the foil. And every card he's got questions on. And I'm telling him the lore and the story behind what that character does, how it's related to the Dragon Lord himself. And that was just a great moment, which I think it's probably going to get posted at some point once Drew and the team get a chance to put those videos together. I haven't had a chance to see anything all day today because I've been packing up, but that's going to be fascinating. So there was a lot of communication, a lot of storytelling. And we also, my wife and I, because it was one of my first times my wife had come with me to an event in years. I think we did one in 2019, and before that, it was probably another decade before. So it was kind of fun because she's very good at remembering and keeping track of how many people come through, how many cards were signed, but also where they're coming from, how many foreign countries. Like we had a lot of people from Italy, Spain, France came in. There was a ton of people from the West Coast. And the reason is because I have not been ever at an SCG event. And the last MTG related event that I was at was 2011. So for 14 years, no one in Magic has gotten any of my signatures on my 125 cards that I did for them. So they came prepared. So we had just about 70 Magic players come over to have cards signed. I mean, I was signing stats. And every one of them that I can remember, I mean, maybe there was 2 or 3, but just about every one of them bought a Dragon Lord box. And of course, I told them, I said, guys, you're not going to be able to do anything with that if you don't buy, a core set or something like that. So they were like, okay, well, none of it was there. So they're just going to find it online, I guess. But they all bought a Dragon Lord, which helped the sales of Dragon Lord as well. So I feel like the MTG crowd that I brought really got tuned on to Dragon Lord. They didn't know it. They weren't thinking about it until they came to the table. And then they asked questions. They were like, well, what's this all about? And so I got to tell them, I go, well, 100% hand painted. Every single piece of artwork that's ever been in Sorcery is that way. Mine is a little expansion, kind of an adaptation of a story I wrote into a game. And it's a little offshoot with its own story. And I said, the game, I explained the basics of how the game plays, the grid system on the playmat. And I said that it's a different pace. The tournaments too. I mean, I said when you take a look at what you see here, it's a much more laid back, less dog-eat-dog, super high intense competitive environment. It's more camaraderie. There's more. The questions you hear more is, did you have a good time, rather than what's your record, that kind of a thing. So I said, I really feel like we gained a ton of those people, about 70 that came over to see me to get cards signed, who had never done anything with Sorcery, who are now holding a Dragon Lord box and like, wow, okay, I guess I'll check it out. So that's kind of a positive thing I feel that came out of Baltimore. I mean,
yeah, that cool chill vibe is a big a differentiator. I think. Like I swear, like everyone I asked, like how if they were playing and how they were doing, every single person said they were 2-5. Just coincidentally, they're like, "Oh yeah, 2-5. I'm having a great time. Love it." You know, like, I was like about to send my condolences and be like, "Oh man, that's rough." And they're like, "No, it's great. Like I just having so much fun." You know, everybody is, and like all I hear about is from these other games is that they're hyper competitive and people call it sweaty, I guess is the term, right? Because people are like super intense and aggressive, and there it's a turnoff for people. Like they want an alternative, right? So sorcery fits that gap perfectly.
And they're also.
Wonder that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Ed, I wonder too, from a microcosm, macrocosm perspective, you were seeing how you had 70 folks come in from MTG and get interested in Dragon Lord and come into sorcery. I've noticed that the moment Dragon Lord was released, the demand for sorcery shifted, and it was a really an inflection point in demand for all the other cards. And I wonder if we were actually seeing the same thing on a macro level where people were saying, you know what, I finally have a chance of getting more of Ed's art on some cards here. It's not Magic cards. Let's check this out. So I wonder too if that inflection point with Dragon Lord could be a lot of folks that have been interested in Magic, you know, historically, that said, hey, you know, why don't I check this out now? You know?
So I will tell you this. This was wild. So throughout the day, Friday, and then until 2 o'clock on Saturday, I'm getting all the popular cards that I did from Magic. You know, Nicol Bolas, the Elder Dragons. I'm getting Birds of Paradise. I'm getting Psychotog, and you know, some of the others like Avalanche Riders and Plow Under, and maybe some Battle of Wits, and some more lots of dredge decks. So lots of Stinkweed Imps and things like that. And so, I'm getting them regularly coming over to me. And then everyone that's brought that, they're all asking, do you have any prints of MTG? And I said, nope, I've got the 2 playmats, Birds of Paradise and Nicol Bolas, but I don't have any prints. I'm here promoting sorcery. And these are the pieces from it. And so they're all looking at it and they're like, oh, that's some really cool shit. So then I start talking about Kairos, all the hidden things in the books and all. And they're like, Magic doesn't have anything like this at this level, at the scale from you. I said, no, because you got a little teeny box. You don't get the full card of art. There's a lot of limitations in that. So right off the bat, visually, they were asking, because they're sitting there waiting for me to sign their cards, and they're looking at everything and behind me on the wall, all the canvases. I actually sold 4 canvases, and they all but two of them went to MTG players, and the other 2 were sorcery. But one of the things that after that Friday all day and then Saturday halfway through the day, I'm getting 7th edition foil birds. I had 5 of them come my way from individuals, and those are big dollar deals. They're over $2,000.
Oh yeah.
Well, they're being sold. They were sold right there at the event. So the guy, his name was Marco. He's from Italy, and he's the dealer that was selling them. And so finally he comes over at like 2:30 in the afternoon on Saturday to my table, and he says, I have been wondering, and so has these other dealers, why we're selling so many Ed Beard cards. All of a sudden, we're looking online. We're trying to figure out where the demand is coming from. We're not seeing it. And we're like, why is everyone asking for it? So they're immediately saying, are we underpriced? And they're telling me this, right? There were 2 other dealers that went through that. And then when he said, one of the final customers came by and said, no, Ed's around the corner. They're like, we had no idea you were even going to be here. And I'm like, no, my name was on the list, but maybe not the retailers. I guess the retailers get a heads up on who's going to be coming a month or 2 or more before. And I guess I kind of came in towards the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something. But whatever the case was, they were pretty shocked. They were like, so what is this deal? Are you going back? Are you working for Magic again at all? I said, no. I said, no, not at all. I said, I'm very happy with what I did with sorcery. I said, you guys really need to check this out. And I said, turn around and look at that table. And at that point, everyone was seated. They were pretty much in the middle of games Saturday afternoon. And it was 120-something plus people. And it was jam-packed. And one of the guys says to me, one of the dealers, he said, this was one of our worst performing sales-wise, MTG related. And, it was just lackluster compared to other events. He goes, but, sorcery clearly has a solid base. I said, yeah. So at the end of the show, I kind of just stopped by real quick to say thank you to the guys at SCG, and spoke to one of the guys there and just said, so, how did you do? I said, it was a great show for us. And he said, not as good as we had hoped for, a little bit slow on the MTG side. He goes, but you guys, you were packed, you rocked the house. So we outperformed, as far as I got information on, we outperformed the expectations that they had for MTG at that event. So we rocked the world. Sorcery was it. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's resonating strongly, and these Magic players are disenfranchised with all these like weird art themes and stuff. Really gravitate to the hand painted, like you said. It's something no one else is doing in the market. That's a differentiator, and then the gameplay being casual and fun, and still, it can be competitive too. We were talking before you came on how there's different tournament events emerging where a lot of them welcome all kinds of types, new players and experienced competitive players. And then there's some that are cropping up that are going to be more competitive versus competitive. So you can do it all and you can still have a good time. But so how'd you do, like you and the other artists? Did you do, you did very well. I got to help my daughter in a minute. You don't want to hear what she's saying. I'll be right back. You guys carry on.
It sounded like he was asking, like, how did you guys do? How did the other artists do if you talked to them? Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, I'm going to tell it to you straight. I have never charged for my signature at any event ever in my life, right? So I always have a deal where you buy something, you get 4 free signatures, and generally that was enough. And a lot of times they would literally buy, okay, I'll buy $200 worth of stuff to get all my cards signed. I never felt right about it. But as of Gen Con, I was told you have to, because they're not going to be able to fly home with enough product to get the 200 cards they want signed from you. So I Mark to Dean, and I did, and he's like $5 a piece, and I'm like, all right, we'll go with that routine. So that helped. Oh my God, because I signed, it was 500 cards at one. I probably signed 2,000 cards, guys. So wow. You do the basic math on that. I was buco buckos.
And that's got to be a great event for you. Yeah, I got to imagine you don't make that kind of money at the Renaissance fairs.
Well, we do, but
really, all right.
Yeah, but we do, but it takes 4 people and a ton of different product. We're talking everything from throw blankets, canvases, T-shirts, Zippo lighters, coins, medallions, statues, figurines. So you got to have, and we also have 15,000 people at the event, which I probably have 3,000 to 5,000 people going through my booth. So I can do that, but to do that in an environment where it's just me and my wife and 1 or 2 persons at a time. No, that was exceptional. But the other thing too is I love the fact that everybody, even the Magic players, were buying those T-shirts of mine that are all sorcery art. If you look towards Saturday evening, if you went and looked out, it was like 1 out of 15 people had my shirt on, and that was so cool to see that. The shirts did come out beautiful. They're made by the Mountain, so they really do look nice. But it was stuff like that, I also got. I should tell you guys, out of the 70 people that came to me, you got to realize my last Magic card was 2005 in Ravnica, the very first Ravnica. That was the last set that I did. So everybody bringing me cards, for the most part, they were all pre-modern or EDH.
Yeah.
And those guys, and they came up to me and told me, it's challenging for them to find events that they can enjoy and that they can have a group with. So when I told them, I said, well, that's why, some of them were old enough to remember the early days of Magic. I said, but think of it this way. You have craftsmanship, hand-painted, skilled artisans putting all this effort and time and work. You have obviously old school approaches to the card layouts. You have a totally unique dynamic on how this plays differently from Magic. And then I said, you have all that put together with these dynamically unique looks and styles and techniques. So you have this diversity in front of you, and that there's a little bit of style for everyone, whether it's watercolor, pen and inks, oils, acrylics. So it's very much reminiscent of the 93, 94 old days of Magic the Gathering.
But I think with more artistic freedom too.
Oh,
that's one of the reasons why sorcery art, and like especially like on the card itself. I mean, the card is dedicated to the art. Obviously, it works perfect with the playability, but it's such a homage to the art itself. So I think you have like, you can tell with the artist that they put their all into it, because sorcery is just like, hey, do what you want, give us your all, you know. So the artists will be like, oh cool, you can actually come into my universe, versus okay, I have to fit these parameters. So I think that's another thing that the fan base is looking at, going, oh my god, this stuff's next level. And it's like, yeah, because of all of this artistic expression that they're able to have, versus other games.
And that's Eric. Eric is a very, oh man, well, my experience with him has been, you give him an idea, concept, you say this is where, and my situation was unique, I guess, comparatively, but the same principles were still applied. If I said to him, this is what I'm looking at for a presentation of a composition, and this is what this character is about, this is what the character's powers are, this is what his weaknesses are, you know, I'd have this one presentation, but he would say, okay, can we include this so that way mechanically it makes sense? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Yeah. So that's a good continuity director. Yeah. That's someone who understands that. That was what we had in the early days of Magic. We had creative freedom, but with some oversight and direction and guidance, as opposed to, I guess, right around 99, 2000, we were all starting to get, well, actually, you're a little bit earlier, 97. We were all given style guides. And every set, the style guide got more controlling. Every leaf had to be the one from the style guide. It's never going to be seen in the picture. None of the players are going to know. It has no relevance to the playability or mechanics, but that leaf has to be according to the style guide. And they got so, it was like an assembly line artist. That's why I left. I said I couldn't take it. It was no creative freedom, and it was stifling. They wanted to brand, homogenize the product, which is what they did. And then I guess that by the time I got out, only a couple of years later, the art director left, who came from Blizzard. So you had this very corporate mentality. None of that exists with sorcery. And I explained that to these Magic players, and I had their ear, man. They were like, you know, we would really like to find out how that's done. I did hear a couple of people say, I know about the game, we just don't have the product in our stores, or we don't have the play base. And then there was some that said, we have recently in Baltimore got a retailer not far from where they were, Fayette something. They're evidently starting it up, and they're starting up playing. So it's happening in that area on the outskirts of Baltimore, like about 3 to 4 miles outside the city. And that's what I heard from about 4 or 5 players that were Magic players who are going to start playing sorcery. So to the point that Steve is making about Gen Con, or I mean, I have to say, obviously, that those lines brought attention. People wanted to know, what the hell is this about? Every single person, literally every single person, except for the scalpers, that bought a box of Dragonlord, and that was like good 800 of them that did this, wound up having to buy something else. And I think it was Arthurian Legends that they had a lot of there. So one Dragonlord sold an Arthurian Legends, or sold, whatever they had as far as pre-constructed deck. So
they sold out too. So like SCG, sold out by, I was going to crack some Arthurian Legends and the price was right. And I was like, I didn't crack too much this weekend. I'll go buy some boxes.
Were they selling at the prize wall? I didn't see them selling it.
No, they were at their vendor stand, at their vending area. And then, so I heard Dice City had some too, but it was too late for me. I was like, I gotta bail, and we were doing the team sealed, but yeah, they sold out, to your point, Ed. So I mean, it was good.
Every single product they had that had never, and there was still more demand, and we were like, I'm sorry, we're all out. So and I gotta say, guys, the reason for that whole thing was a sequence of fortunate events, but it was basically timing. It was the combination of, I had been doing a lot of pre-solicitation to my retailers in Michigan, Ohio, Cleveland, Tennessee, Florida. So I was hitting those guys up. They were getting prepped to go and order from Team Covenant. They were going to hit them. So I don't know. I had 4,000 on my mailing list, and just about everybody wanted a piece of Dragonlord because these are my regular followers. So I brought a lot of that to that whole thing that created that rush, which I tried to tell the guys. I told everybody in distribution, you need to be ready that, this isn't just a lost leader here. This is going to get attention. Then the next thing that happens after that is, a TCG player does this great article and presents Celestis. And that piece, all of a sudden, the guys there at TCG players saying, we got a lot of attention on that page. It really did well. We'd like to do a follow-up, interview article. So they did, and I think the second one was Add an Item, I believe, or maybe it was Tom Drag. Well, whatever. Then there was a third one. So you had right up until Gen Con, you had every week a major drop on a preview of these Dragon Lord cards, which increased the interest, the FOMO, whatever you want to call it. So by the time, and at that point, they're out there going, hey, this is a cool game. That first image was really high fantasy. That second image looks like old school Magic. The third image kind of reminds me of Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's that added item I'm referring to, the Electric Dragon. So they were getting that request from the dealers with the retail. Yeah, exactly. and there is a Yu-Gi-Oh! Feel to that, because I basically remembered my son's cards and I said to my son before I did it, I went, what is the classic pose that goes on in Yu-Gi-Oh! And he kind of described it as like this kind of thing. But the whole thing about that is it was building inertia. There was awareness that this product was not going to be at these retailers, and that people weren't going to get it except at Gen Con. So they all lined up to go. And so that does definitely open up a huge amount of spotlight on Sorcery. And, here we are in this little 10 by 10 booth. And I mean, Jeff and I eased into 4 feet of space. So I think at this point, if they can just get distribution nailed, if they can find a way, because they're having a hard time, they're going to keep having a hard time. We still talk to retailers. Before I checked out of here in Ohio, we have 6 or 7 retailers in Dayton, Cincinnati, and Columbus. And they're pretty much kind of all on the same fence. They're like, we just don't have a model set up for us financially for a once a year kind of product. And we have to keep our resources financially ready for the extortion that we get from MTG, because they do. You have to buy A, B, and C to get D, E, F, that kind of thing. And not only the bigger stores were able to handle that absorption, unless a small store was already into Sorcery, and there are some of those, but there's not enough of them. And certainly Europe's got nothing. We need to get better representation in Europe. So I have some people that I'm talking to. I mentioned this to a couple of folks that were at SCG Baltimore that are in distribution for everything. I mean, they deal with furniture, they deal with automotive parts. They have logistics capability to retail distribute anything. And actually, some of them are already doing games and toys. Gentlemen that I've known for almost 30 years. So I'm talking with them. Now that Sorcery is really on their radar, I'm trying to convince them to consider taking this on, especially to supplement what so many of the retailers are not. If they're not carrying it, what about the public that wants it? How do we get the product to them? And it's like, would you be willing to handle that? And so that's the kind of thing I'm trying to do, because I have future plans, right? I want to make the Dragon Lord go into something else, and so I want to expand. It's the Dragon Lord universe, It's like Eric's already got another 13 cards of mine. I've already laid them out, sent them over. That was back last year. I wanted him to have something ready to go on deck if this thing was, took off. Right now we can't do that. Well, without distribution, we're going to have another nightmare. And I don't want a nightmare. He doesn't want a nightmare. We got to have better outreach to the retail direct, because we can't depend for a small little expansion like a mini set. The retailers aren't going to do it. I mean, they're going to go for Gothic. A lot more of them are going to go for Gothic. Not all of them, but a lot more. But is that going to be enough to build that inertia to say, maybe in February, March, how many more retailers have we picked up? And do we have a bigger distributor, maybe 2 or 3 in Europe, who are now seriously going to take on enough product to make it worthwhile? And that's
Ed, have you just a quick question? Have you considered with those additional cards, including them as part of future sets versus doing a mini set, a second mini set, we would say? Like, have you considered saying like, well, maybe 3 belong in this set or 3 belong in that set, where folks would hunt for them? Do you know what I mean? Versus, not saying that I wouldn't love another mini set either, but I was actually, a question I had for you was, were you planning on having any art in any other of the Sorcery sets? And it sounds like you got a lot of plans,
That's a really good point. And that's that sounds like what it would be a nice little chaser concept, right?
Yeah, right.
And I think that makes sense for some things, you know, and certainly if I was trying to preliminarily promote a future thing of a mini, like, again, let's say Return of the Dragon Lord, right? And we were trying to promote that, a smart move would be to include a couple of chasers in a future set of, but that alone won't be enough to justify for me, because to be honest with you guys, my thought on this product was from the beginning when I first took it on was that it was going to be at least available in Europe and certainly most of the United States. I'm not saying I knew it was going to be collectible, but not unavailable. So what we had was unavailability. And I can't, if I only did a few cards spread out among different sets, I'll be dead by the time I got enough cards in Europe to go to Europe and actually do a signing, you know. That is my true goal is I've got a lot of collectors overseas from MTG days and the last 37 game art. I just don't have enough active cards currently out there. And this was going to be the thing, you know, this was going to give me 13 cards, a nice mini set. I was going to be able to go to all the European shows, but they didn't get the product. So, you know, I'm so limited in that respect. So for me for it to be worth it for me, I'm only looking at, you know, let's take a look at how Gothic does. Let's revisit in the spring. See, you know, once Gothic is slowed down a little bit from the major thing, and take a look at where we are with distribution. And do we have enough in Europe as well as the United States? Have we doubled what we had? Because if I do a follow-up, if I was to do it, and I'm not saying Eric is even wanting to do it. I mean, he actually did say, boy, I wish I had time to show the images. He knew it was a good deal, but he doesn't have that ability. And there is no logistics in place to deliver the product, not at least at this moment. So maybe that'll change come next year. And then I'll suggest to Eric, hey, you know, you think this is something we can do? If there isn't, and we still see a problem with distribution like we did with Dragon Lord, well, then I'm going to talk with my people and see if they're willing to consider it. And then I will bring the two of them together. I'll have Eric's team and then these guys get together and see if they can work with something on a much larger scale. Because the guys I'm dealing with they're mass market guys. You know, they deal, I'm not saying they do deal with Walmarts, Targets, Myers, and all that, but they also they're like a mini Amazon. Let's put it that way. They have the capacity. They have, I don't know, 1 million square foot warehouse. It's enormous. And this is what they do. You know, they deal with both direct, they handle and they distribute logistics for countless companies, from high-end companies to everyday stuff. They actually distributed some of the stuff that I produced in the market. And I'm a tiny little guy. So maybe they can help with making it up. Team Covenant was a possible option, I guess, that, you know, maybe they could do direct retail, but I don't think they're going to handle Europe. So
yeah, like shipping overseas is very problematic with import costs. And someone was telling me like the Star City Games bundle was like super expensive to ship to Europe. They got to have localized distribution in Europe. It's a pretty big challenge. I thought it was really ambitious for Sorcery to roll out internationally right out of the gate. A lot of companies will start in the U.S. and then grow into Europe because it creates just orders of magnitude of complexity trying to get into all these different markets and different laws and rules, you know, for distributing product, different costs.
You have to have a warehouse in regional areas of Europe to be able to, and that's the only. I've got those contacts, but they're waiting to see. They want to see how it goes. Let's see how Gothic goes. If it continues, I know the set after that. I got plenty. I mean, I'm patient, and I don't plan on dying in the next 2 years.
Better not.
Yeah, but Steve's line of thinking is interesting, because I was thinking similarly, because I was sitting with a guy at the bar Saturday night, and he was playing. You know, there's this LGS. It's an LGS / bar in Baltimore. It's like a couple miles from where the venue was. So there's a bunch of guys playing in there, a lot of experienced players. And he was saying that there was recently a dragon for Gothic that was revealed by a different artist that's going to be in the Gothic set. And it's like a very powerful dragon. So he was like, I would have loved to see some super powerful dragons in the mini set on the order of power magnitude of this one. However, I think, you know, we've only seen like 1 or 2 new dragons, right, that I can recall. There could be many more that synergize with your mini set that also make your mini set more powerful. That's yet to be seen. So people jump to conclusions. But if you have like many more dragons, as you do from your lore story and everything, like Steve was saying, it would be an interesting dynamic if they were inserted, whether they be chase cards or not, have those as core cards in future sets that also make your initial product stronger, your initial set of 13 cards. That's always a possibility and a more mainstream, easier way to go about it. But
I'm not against doing a promo, the types of things like you're talking about is a promo.
Yeah.
The following 13 cards that I prepared and laid out in the card frames and sent over to Eric as a follow-up were aligned with the existing ones, the first 13 that just came out. So think of Dragon Lord as the end, and then these are beta. These are not meant to be another 60. I was not looking at it to have another $60 box. I didn't even want, these shouldn't even be in a box. These next 13 are meant to be much more available. I was thinking something like a paper blister pack, the cardboard blister pack, something like Pokemon does, and where you have a pack of cards, but it's half the price, or maybe $35 or something like that, and make it much more mass available, because the characters in the follow-up 13 correlate directly with the existing first 13, and they are actually in my storyline subordinate and supportive of those existing characters. So they got a lot they could do mechanical wise to make that make sense. So when you got one of these newer cards, if the mechanics are done correctly, they will make sense to why they work with those other characters and my story.
What if Ed, if they took that pack like you just talked about and put it as a box topper in every box of a set, like a set like Gothic, take your pack, put it in the top of the box. I mean, that would be widely distributed just like you want. That could be that could be a way to do it too.
That's a great idea, right? It would kind of have to rework the way the agreements are.
Sure.
Just so you guys know, the whole concept of doing anything, I wanted to see how this first thing did. I was not expecting it to be this popular. It really did well. And it's continuing to do well. And I'm like, this is a great model. It really was a passion project of Eric's. I'm so honored that he selected me to do it. And by the same token, it brought up a book that I wrote. I wrote 5 years it took me for the universe. And from back in 2005 to 2012, I have over 100 images all ready to go. And it's the entire storyline. And I'm looking at, I had wanted to do more with this. I'd never considered a game. I had already done some other products with it, but we never got to the game. Obviously, I did the Dragon Lord van, but I had done statues of different characters and whatnot. So all these things, and I'd always wanted to do something on a continuation, right? Like a little bit, release so much, then do it. I do that with all my art. Every single piece of artwork I've done has a biography and a storyline. I have multiple storylines running on all the collections I have, which is why people keep coming back every year, because they want to get the next image in the series. And let me tell you, when I don't get that and I miss a year or 2 years go by and they don't have the follow-up, they get frustrated. So for me, it has to be something that I can sell as well. So if I'm forced to have to buy a box that has a lot of other people's cards, it won't work. Not for me, So I'd have to have access to be, if that was to be the way it was done, as long as I have access to the packs to be able to sell to my clientele, I'd be cool. I'm fine with it. But I don't know how to work out for, collation, limited edition, all that. I don't know.
Oh, you could still do that. You could make the packs have like a foil in each pack to keep the chase in it, right? So just like Dragon Lord, we've got 13 different cards, or maybe and then the 14th card is a foil. You put it as the box topper. As soon as you open the box, there's this beautiful pack with different art that says Return to the Dragon Lord on the top of it. So when you open the box, there it is. Boom. You've got that excitement. And then Eric Curiosa can give you, in the individual packs. Yeah, just like you said. And that way you have access to it to do what you need to do.
Yeah, because that's really it. I mean, it's just a matter. The same thing happened with this product. Part of the license was that I would have access to buying up to 10% of the production line, right?
Yeah. And they can still do that.
Yeah, and it had conditions. It was like, because I'm not a retailer, right? So that I'm not to sell a box sealed. So you'll never see me selling a sealed box. They always have to be either signed or signed and numbered, something like that. So it wouldn't necessarily be the same for the second thing. The second thing would be it's just going to be a product in a pack, whether it's in a little blister or whatever. I would have certainly not be I would absolutely think that's a great idea too. You know, having it included in, I mean, that would get a lot more circulation of the product.
And it would solve the Europe problem because they have gotten so much better with their distribution of the main product lines in Europe. I really think Gothic, we're not going to see the issues we've seen with the Path 2 sets. Okay. So that would get that distribution you're wanting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what I'm going to wait and see how it goes. You know, if Gothic does do as well in distribution as we hope, then next year I'll take a revisit of it. I'll reach out to Eric and go, Eric, any chance? I mean, and if he says, Ed, I was happy, it was a one and done, it was great, I loved it, but that's kind of where I want to be and I want to stop. Then the only things that are really left for me to keep that storyline going in a card format, I think I mentioned this to Steve too, is basically doing something like a token. You know, I'd have something on the back of the card that would be Dragon Lord Universe.
Yeah.
Just an extension of generics, if you will, you know, that can be used as anything. I have the box at the bottom, the mechanics box blank, the point systems blank, and just leave it up to the collector to fill in those things. And basically it'd be for fun. It would be for home play. It wouldn't be for tournament, obviously, but it would be just something to reintroduce the new characters. They can have fun with it. I would provide the lore and the background, the biography, so they know where it's going. Because there has been a lot of people have said, I mean, actually more people at SCG Baltimore came to me and said, so when's the rest of the cards? Because they know there's a big storyline in it, you know? And I'm like, no, I don't know. I hope, but I know that Eric's overwhelmed with Gothic, his next 2 sets, you know, he's been working on. So there's a lot of time involved in that, but I do have everything pretty much ready to go as far as art's concerned. He would still have to find time to have his guys that are working on the mechanics to put mechanics to 13 cards, you know, and do they have the time to do that in the next 2 years? I don't want to let too much time go by, but I think a year from now would be the max. I'd say if we can't do anything by next fall, then I'd probably just say, all right, well, I guess it's not going to happen. And I would just do some tokens just to get the artwork out there. But hey, man, I'm crossing my fingers. I'm hopeful because if I was in business and I looked at the success of if I was a game manufacturer, and I have art directed for many game companies, Z-Man Games was one of the ones that I did a lot of art directing for. Zeb Schlossinger's a great guy. Him and I go way back, and we watched how things went. We knew distribution, how important it was with Europe to get the European versions, different languages. And I know from a business standpoint, if I had this much demand and I had lines wrap around a building at Gen Con, I would make darn sure I had a follow-up product to that, you know?
Oh, yeah.
One that's going to cost me nothing to do. You know, I mean, it's just a matter of production. I made that very clear to Eric, and I'll say it publicly. I am not charging Eric to do it because I'm going to make plenty of money selling my version, you know, my product. So the first one was a licensing deal. This one, same thing, but, you know, it's a kind of a royalty-free environment because it's already proven itself to have a great base. I know that personally between, Mike alone sold like 100 and something playmats of mine in like one night from Dragon Lord. So there'll be plenty of peripheral income. I'm truly, honestly, if there is to be another, you know, Dragon Lord Returns, it's all about me getting to be able to go to these shows and meet my collectors and fans of my work for the last 38 years and finally maybe get to Europe and so forth. And also other places in the United States, because they haven't seen me for 14 years. So that would be kind of cool to do that. That's my objective.
Your point too, Ed, like I think people really like your dragons. And I think that the dragons that you have are a real big pull for the Magic crowd into Sorcery. So it's like, you know, and having more is not a bad thing. You know, it can only be a bonus for Sorcery to have more of Ed's dragons. You know,
the thing that I got a lot of repeat Magic players saying to me, they all said, and they were right. They said, that Kairos, man, has very strong Nicol Bolas vibes. And I said, yes, it's a homage. Think of him as his distant cousin, right? But there was certain kind of like salutes back to things in the past and time. Yeah. And I also, though, the next 13 have characters that are not necessarily exclusive to just dragons, because the world evolved and mammals and other kinds of creatures, including humanoids, started to come into play. Because it's millions of years in the future. So we've got what I'm known for is wizards, sorcerers, and dragons, right? And creatures. So everything from griffins and manticores and things like that. So, but it's always in that style of mine. But you're right, Steve. A lot of the people said, you know, you basically took your MTG style and feel and you brought them into high fantasy for sorcery, which, yeah, it definitely, like I said, I was selling sorcery art to MTG players because I didn't have any magic art. And they were buying it up. They were like, this would have been, they were all saying, boy, this would be a great magic card. And they kept asking, would you ever consider going back to work from MTG? And I said, no way. I said, number one, they've gone AI. They're embracing it. I said, they're popping out sets every 5 minutes. It's like, I feel like it's Monopoly. You know, like Monopoly game? The way you have a Betty Crocker. Why don't we have a Betty Crocker magic set? You know, it's like, this has become so commercialized and so away from the art. I mean, it was already bad enough when it went with that homogenized, streamlined digital style guide stuff. But it's pushed so far away, and now we've got a lot more AI going into it. That's not a company I want to hang with. I mean, the only reason I even did this with Eric to begin with was when he sent me that email, you know, and it was all, he's talking about this hand-painted card set that they did on Kickstarter. I was like, what? Who the heck does that? It's been like 30 years since anyone did 100% hand-painted. So I was fascinated by that, and I'm like, man, you know, I'm all about no AI involved as much as we can. Keep preserving the human relevance at all costs. I mean, I recognize AI is important for certain things, but it's being abused, and we're seeing in the creative fields, whether it's like my daughter's music, you know, every 5 minutes you turn around. Right now, Spotify is, did you hear about the latest? Some of the biggest bands out there are having their Spotify accounts uploading new songs and new albums, claiming that they're from these high-end bands, and they're not. They never did them. They were all AI, and the AI is actually the system that they're using, and the programming is overriding the Spotify, and it's able to break through whatever the hell code they use. So it's gotten so out of control, man. And so I'm all about human craftsmanship, the human relevance, the appreciation. We've got a lot of young kids now, 15 to 25, that are so desperate for authenticity. They want relevance. They're sick and tired of every time they hit about the next degree that they want to get, that, oh, that's obsolete because now AI's took that job over. So I want to stick with a company that celebrates that human connection. You know, that was my objective.
Yep. It's important. It's awesome that they're doing it, because we could have dangerously got into a realm where younger people don't even know original art to be able to appreciate it. All they see is AI and digital, right? So
that really did
pretty
happen. I see that all the time when I'm at. Up until 2 years ago, it was getting to that point. When they, as my daughter here, she manages two of our booths in Michigan. Show that shop, and then our Ohio one towards the end of it, and she'll tell you, go ahead. I mean, how many people come in talking about it 2 years ago and back that didn't even know? They all thought it was digital, right?
A lot of them thought it was digital. A lot of them thought that it was like program generated, and then like last year, these kids come in and they see like our anti-AI signs, and they're like, oh my gosh, thank goodness you have this. We're totally like against this. Like, so everyone's really like woken up to, oh wow, this is bad, especially the young kids, which is it's so nice to see that. But yeah, we definitely went from like, they would watch him do like a little demonstration, or then I would say, yeah, my dad did this, it's all hand painted, hand drawn, and then they would all just stop like, wait, what? This is traditional? I'm like, yes, it still happens, you can still do it. To now we have this whole wave of these kids coming in just saying like, yes, no AI, awesome, traditional. A lot of them are getting into doing a lot of traditional art themselves, so
cool.
It's been nice to see it. And I think too, like, I think also if Sorcery really tries to promote that, I don't know if they do that a lot. I haven't really seen that a lot. Like, I know they talk about the handcrafted, but if they really did a push against the AI and they really like took that stance of like, we are preserving a tradition of art that has been seen throughout history, we are continuing that in the fantasy realm, I think they would pull in a lot of the younger generation too, like a lot of the, I guess, Gen Z or Gen Alpha, I guess the younger ones. I think they would bring a whole new audience in.
So though they're doing it by default, but are they actually going, could they market it that way? Could they actually do a
Yeah.
that's pitching this to the young people? It's like, come on back to real authenticity and craftsmanship with our game, and that whole pitch would absolutely sing loud, because there is such a huge, I'm telling you, anyone 15 years old to 35 that comes in our shops, and I get 3,000, 4,000 a day coming in through our doors. If they see those signs, they'll start talking, we'll hear them. And they're all in that age group. They're all like, wow, it's good to see somebody. All my entire life, they said they've never seen anyone hand paint. Their entire school, whether it was, going back 10 years, it was all Wacom tablets and monitors. And so for the last 10 years, none of these kids have ever seen anyone do anything other than Bob Ross on TV. Yeah. So it's absolutely fascinating to them. And if Sorcery truly did a campaign to promote and showcase in a deliberate way that says, by the way, guys, if you're really into hand craftsmanship and getting away from technologies, just watering everything down into AI, we're the company for you. Right. And you would get such an avalanche of young people that are not aware of this game right now. They're just not. And
you could even do it like subtly too, like on the wrapper of a box. Instead of it having like Sorcery logo, you could also have it like Sorcery with no AI symbols or something like that too, where it's like even subtle on the wrapper of the box that when you throw it away, but when someone picks it up, they see that, something subtle even.
Yeah, 100%.
Because that's
right now on Spotify, the number one, it was the number one band. A couple of weeks ago, it was exposed that they were entirely AI. And these kids, this generation, I got to give these guys credit. They basically did like a walkout, didn't stream, didn't do anything. And their numbers went down so bad. They started listening to other people that they knew were traditional and authentic. So a lot of musicians came out saying, hey, everything we do is authentic. We don't do AI. And now those AI bands just got crushed. So it's forced to be reckoned with. And it's a wave if they got on, like you said, Steve, like even having like that subtle anti-AI, that would bring in that whole generation. You would then have that generation gap, because like a lot of people that do the card games and stuff, I would say probably like I would guess about like mid-30s and older. You brought in that whole like early 20s kind of generation. Now you've got that generational gap of this camaraderie, this gaming, this what we all had in the early 2000s. Now they'll get to be exposed to. So,
it's kind of like taking AI to the no AI to the maximum level is what Sorcery's done. Because and it's not an anti-digital at all. It doesn't have to be that. It can be just, we're not only AI, but we are the original no AI, as in the old school handcrafted painted. So it would absolutely, it's a guarantee. No one has to question or wonder whether or not some piece of illustration work was manipulated, concepted through AI. It's 100% old school stuff, drawn by hand with, you've seen the sketches, the preliminaries, the development of the piece. So many of us are doing live Patreon. So, every single piece that I did for, that's not true. There are 3 pieces I did not film. They were already previous pieces of art that were done for Dragon Ball. But everything else, so 11 pieces, 10 pieces, were all hand painted on camera, on film. So I'm actually going to have my son start to do time lapses of every single one of them from the sketch process, just like I did with Kairos, so that everybody gets to see, this is how these things were created. Somebody had asked me, several people had asked me at the show, how long did it take me to do each of the pieces, right? And the one that was the quickest took me about 20 hours. And the one that was the most complex was 144 hours. That was Kairos. And they were all different sizes. So they were fascinated by that. They were like, holy moly, there is no way. And I know, because even before I left Wizards of the Coast doing their work, I knew how much they were paying. And I know how much time I would never justify spending more than 10 hours worth of time on a piece based on what they paid. It just wouldn't make sense economically. And so you can't spend more than 10 hours on a piece for Wizards and even come close to making any money. So this is something that the kids want to hear about. If they knew, I think they would just be droves of waves of more avalanches of kids coming in. Hey man, I hear you guys you're like the original old school no AI. We'd love to see that. So yeah, man, I'm really hopeful. And honestly, even if I don't ever do anything else with Sorcery again, artistically, and I'd love to down the line, but if I don't, I'm still so happy to be a part of this as kind of like if it is to be my final appearance in the gaming industry. What a great way to have had my work showcased, in a product that is a homage to the original way in which we all did this, this handcrafted sweat and tears and just the creative essence of us as human beings just put into this piece and this whole product that they've done. And just to be a part of that has been so awesome. I've been on cloud 9 ever since Gen Con came out. And I think that is absolutely, that comes across to not only the players, but their interactions with us. I think they feel our passion. Jeff Menges is another example of somebody who's very interactive and embracing, and Liz does as well. Liz Danforth, I saw her dealing with them. She tells the stories. So that adds such an interesting layer to the gameplay and the whole collecting of this product, because they get those inside backstories, and understand that there's the game mechanics and the people behind that are working to make these game cards not broken, and play. And then you have this other creative process and the synergy that all of us work together to make. And like, a lot of them don't really, they start to hear my story about the Dragon Lord, in that the mechanics that were designed for those cards in Dragon Lord absolutely align perfectly with my storyline and the characters' biographies and profiles. That's amazing. That Eric did him and his team did such a great job with aligning that. We would go back and forth, like, okay, if we're going to do this ability, we're going to do it because it makes sense to your character and what that character does. And it was just, where do you get that? I mean, that's complete continuity all the way, in a product. And I think it makes a difference to the end user.
Yep. Absolutely does. Nice. Well, thanks for popping in,
Ed. See more dragons. Yeah.
You told me you drove 11 hours today. Is that right? Did I hear you right?
Yeah.
That's insane. I don't know how you're even awake right now.
I know.
But I did ask you on no notice. I was like, maybe just pop in for a few minutes. And here we are, like an hour later.
I know.
You got more energy than all three of us.
We've got one on right now that's so loud, you can't hear it, but
I can't hear it.
It's pulverizing the roof here in the camper. So we wouldn't be sleeping very much anyways, because it's like being in a tin can,
Yeah.
But I would thank you very much for having us over as a impromptu surveillance Servati vehicle,
Yeah, man. Thank you. You're welcome anytime. Appreciate it a lot.
All right. Well, we're going to sign off, going back into surveillance mode.
Oh, God.
Party outro.
All right. We got to go back to your covert operation.
All right. See you guys. Happy Halloween. Stay
Bye.
safe. See ya. All right. That got wild. Yeah, I accidentally banned Keel. He was calling me a shill. So I was like, oh, yeah, push you in timeout, punk. And now he's like banned.
And you can't unban him?
Well, I don't know. I think I put him in a timeout. And then I looked back at I went to look back at his like recent comments, and it says was banned and their comments were removed. So, yeah, I can't find him. I don't know. You have to coach me up on it later, Steve. I don't know, man.
I think you can do it if you find him through your direct messages with him. If you've directly messaged him ever.
On YouTube, though.
Oh, you banned him on YouTube?
Yeah, like in the
on
comments,
YouTube.
And it was like timeout. So I was just like trying to mess with him. And I figured you'd be able to like untime out the person.
I've never banned anybody.
Yeah, now it says he's banned. This happened before when I was just like, I forget. I think I was just trying to like show the guy's comments, and I was like, the chat was like going so fast that I clicked the ban button accidentally, and then I figured out later in the settings in like YouTube Studio how to recover the guy, and he rejoined. But yeah, Kyle's silenced. It's hilarious.
That's too funny.
Yeah, did we miss anything on the con though? I mean, it was freaking awesome. We had a private dinner Friday night. Ed came out. We had a good time. I think that's the one thing you missed in your video. It's the after party experience at these cons.
Can I show the dinner menu?
What's that?
Can I show the dinner menu?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So this was our dinner menu, right? We all signed it, but Ed decided to do something special And literally, we were all wondering, like, why is he over there signing? What's taking so long with the signature? Meanwhile, he did like 30 or how many like individual
16 guests. So
16.
Yeah, we just
individual sketches. So
amazing. But yeah, like when you go to these events, we all travel to go to the events, you know. So like I love having the after parties. We did that at Sorcery Con where we had a separate room at the venue where a bunch of guys came out. I bought a bunch of booze. Like right after I got off the plane, we went to a liquor store. Cho picked me up at the airport and we went to the liquor store and we just loaded up the cart. And then he owns a Chick-fil-A, you know, so he got some chicken for us. But then like at these events, like we always like do dinners, like often with the artists and stuff, or just like people we know across the community. So Saturday night, a bunch of you missed out, Steve. You were too wrecked to like make it that late. But there was a lot of people at No Land Beyond, a couple miles north of the venue, and it was a good time, man. It was a good mixed crowd. I had a funny story because I was sitting there between like Pete was playing this other guy, and I'm blanking on his name. He was one of the guys who was judging with the tattoos on his arm. You probably know who he is. Itza, but I'll have to figure it out later. He's at a lot of these events, and he was at Sorcery Con. So he
was it Benji?
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe
long hair.
No, I don't think he had long hair.
Okay.
He was wearing one of those blue shirts. That's all I remember. What?
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. My 4-year-old's like, you almost done? So he's sitting me to my left playing this guy, and to the right is his daughter Lucy playing Will Jackson. So like Pete's like playing this guy, and I was just like casual. I'm watching their game, and he's like Pete's like just getting just wrecked, you know. His life's like getting whittled down, and he's always got like this calmest freaking demeanor. He's totally unfazed. He's just like looking at his cards, kind of thinking about his next play and whatnot. He's going from like 20 to 16 to 12. Then all of a sudden he's at 8 life. And this guy's like, all right, I do this, this, and this, pop you for 5. And Pete's like, doesn't even react. He's just like looking at his cards, you know, and then the guy forgot to put down the life timer. So he reaches over and he's like, oh, I just hit you for 5. You're down to 3. And Pete's like, oh. Like he didn't even, like he just woke up from a 14-hour nap. He's just like, okay. And then like I look over at the guy's hand. He's got 1 card in his hand. So I realized he was like completely depleted of resources and he was going to be helpless in a minute, right? And I'm sure this is what like Pete as an experienced player was thinking. And then he just like freaking wiped him out like a few turns later. He just absolutely crushed him and Pete won the game, you know? So like that's how sorcery is. You can be cool as a cucumber, you be down on like close to death's door, a few points of life. And if you don't, it's just like any game. If you deplete your hand and you can't do anything, you just have dead draws or you just can't do anything turn to turn, you just get smoked because Pete had a handful of cards. So he's probably just playing into his strategy. Yeah. But it's pretty funny because he's always got that. I never seen him in action playing the game. I just kind of see him around at these events. It's Pete Hansen I'm talking about. You guys know him.
Yeah.
With the big beard and the 12 kids or whatever. 11, 12, 13. I don't know how many it is these days. But it was awesome. Big part of the experience.
Good time.
All day, all night. You guys still recovering? Itza looks tired. He has to stand
I'm good. Yeah, no, I'm good. I just, dealing with the job now. So, no, I'm good. Yeah.
School night. We're back to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Power of Dragons and Spoils.
Yeah, that was good, man. Did you get that many at the event? You got a bunch?
This
I only
is
got
all
2.
sealed Dragon Lord.
Yeah.
Purchased off of the fingertips of scalpers. it was actually just, my Pittsburgh friends. Some of them, they got extra boxes and didn't need them, so they sold them to me. So that's I got my 3, and then 3 from friends. So,
all right, guys. Any famous last words? We didn't really get to the recap segment because we were having so much fun with Ed, but
yeah, it was wild.
The bottom line is, to summarize, great turnout, good mixed experience. Everyone had fun. Like I didn't see anyone getting upset about gameplay, any kind of like drama or controversy whatsoever. Everyone had an awesome time. I'm being asked about Sorcery Con, so we did have a meeting today, and we're still looking at a date like around 3rd week of February in Indianapolis. However, it overlaps with the event in Milwaukee with SCG Con, so we're going to maybe talk to Pete or SCG Con and kind of see, like, make sure we're not creating an issue there with competing with that event or some of the implications of that. And if we got to find out from Eric's Curioso, if they have plans for SCG Con and see if we need to work something else out to deconflict. That's really the holdup at this point. But we know we got to lock it in. We got to start looking for judges. I mentioned you, Itza, and said, like, this guy loves to judge, and he lives right there in Indianapolis. So if you need to take
I'll be happy to be there. Yeah. As long as I'm not in Milwaukee.
Yeah, right. We'll figure that out, and then I want to start locking in like a lot of artists like last time. So hopefully, like in the next week, we're going to try to get this stuff settled. But we keep saying that every week, and we hit a snag. So we'll see how it goes, guys.
All right.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. It's always fun.
Thanks for having us.
Current events.
Good seeing you too, Josh.
Good to see y'all.
All right, take care, guys.
See you. Bye.
Have a good night. Happy Halloween. See ya. Say bye.
Wow.
See ya, man.